All right. So here's the first question for you guys to figure out and give me the answer to, which is, and from all of your readings, I'm sure you're reading along in the textbook. You're not just letting me talk at you. But what is a market? What do you think? What's a market? Like we're talking about marketing. That's okay.
Gathering of people for purchase and sale.
That sounds like a market, like in a like a town in, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't sound like the marketing sense, even though it is. So if you were to think of what she just described, and she's looking for another one, I can tell she's a Googler. But like if you think about it in those, if you think about those terms, but take it like maybe more, I won't say metaphorical, but like less place bound, right? It's not like this bunch of stalls where you can buy stuff. That is a market. What do you come up with anything?
Consumer organizations interested in
Okay, so a group of consumers, meaning individual people who buy stuff, or businesses who are interested in a product and have the resources to actually buy it. So it's not enough to just be interested in it. In order to be part of the market, you've got to actually be able to buy it. Now, it could be like if you want an Apple Watch and you don't have enough money for it, you know you're gonna have to save up for 6 months or something, or be really, really nice and hope for it for Christmas or something. You're probably still a part of that market, right? There are plenty of people who want a product and will be able to buy it and just can't right now or whatever. But it's so if you think of those limitations, then the things we talk about here about trying to figure out what market we're going to sell to, that becomes important, right? In other words, to waste your time marketing to people who do not have the means to purchase your product and never will is, well, it's just folly. I mean, you could be super nice and, I don't know, make them affordable to some of those people, but it's still not the same as like, who are we going to try to sell our stuff to? Because if you have a business, you've got to sell stuff to people. I mean, either stuff or services, whatever you do, right? It doesn't have to be like an actual physical good. It could be, doctors don't really sell physical goods. They provide a service. They look in your throat and they're like, oh, yep, here's some amoxicillin, right? Or whatever. All right. So there's your definition. The desire or need for the product and the ability, willingness, or authority to purchase such products. And typically we think of them in two categories. We think of consumer markets. Those are markets of individuals or households, okay, that purchase stuff and are the sort of end users of the product, right? If you buy a bottle of shampoo, you and the people in your household are going to be the ones using that shampoo. And then business markets that are often not the end user of the product. They're buying it to resell it to the consumer, okay? Although sometimes some businesses do buy products to use them, right? It's always interesting. You like to think about like some companies' finished product will be another company's raw material. So if I have a car manufacturer, I might go to Goodyear and buy tires from them, and that's their finished product. They started with like raw rubber and steel belts, and they built tires. I buy them, and they just become a component part of the thing I make. And so sometimes I'm selling it direct to the consumer. Sometimes I'm using it in the creation of a product that I'm selling to a consumer. And sometimes I'm just using the product as part of my operating. Maybe a good example would be that same car manufacturer buying grease from somebody. It's not even a component part. It's just you need it to lube up all the metal parts so that it all works right. All right. So that's kind of what a market is. A group of individuals, organizations, a desire or need for a product, and the ability, willingness, and authority to purchase it. And then we split those into consumers and business. Okay. All right. So here's the process we have to go through as marketers. If we want to choose a target market, I'm going to reiterate this, even though I said it the other day, because I tell you, this happens constantly as I work with real business owners. And I'm like, who's your target market? And they say, everybody wants this. And I'm like, I don't doubt it. Your product is awesome. Everybody wants it. But not everybody is as interested in it as everybody else, and not everybody has the authority to purchase it, right? So I'll give you this weird real life story. I was consulting with this business. A lady comes in, she has created a product. And here's what her reason for creating this product is her daughter, a young teen at the time, was spending the night at a friend's, and I don't know exactly how it happened, but like she somehow either she peed on her underwear, okay? And it was super embarrassing for her. And so her mother was like, "You should always keep a spare pair with you." But like that's not super convenient or easy to do. So they bought like this pair of panties that were like really thin material that they could stuff in like an old like pill bottle, like and it would just fit like discreetly in her bag. And then if anybody ever saw it, it just looked like she had medicine or something in there. It wasn't anyway. So she was like, I wonder if other people would need this. And so she started creating these spare pairs, she called them. And she was actually making these underwear herself because she could make them smaller and more, I guess, more compactable into this thing than the ones she could buy on the market. And people in her, they're selling them to like friends and people who heard about it and just like a local thing. Anyway, so and then she had started this company called Spare Pair Ltd. And by the time I met her, um, she had already gotten one big client, but it sort of changed the direction of her business and changed her target market dramatically. She was doing these, and her thought it was like a, a, a good thing to have an extra pair of underwear with you just in case. I don't know. But she was going to these conventions, and Spencer Gift. Anybody ever heard of Spencer Gifts? They're like in malls, you'll see them. They sell all sorts of like gag gifts, inappropriate sexual like joke things, and yeah, Spencer's. Yeah. So you've heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they approach her at one of these, and they're like, we're thinking that these would be like a funny gag gift if you like, so they wanted her to like put like a thong underwear in them, and like, and so she was like, well, okay. So they're like, okay, can you have like, she's making these herself. Can you have like 12,000 of them ready for us by like next Tuesday or so, or, she's like, probably in 30 days I could do it. So she did. She sold 12,000 so they could like put a small sample. They were doing a test market, a small sample like in each of their stores and see how they did. But so like this shifted her whole, so when she came to me, she was saying she had now gone to a company in Vietnam that was manufacturing the underwear, and a company in Mexico that was manufacturing the pill bottles, and then they were both, the pill bottles and the underwear were shipped to a company in California where somebody was packing the underwear in the pill bottle, putting a label on it, and then boxing it. And her advertising had gone from like, this is a good thing to have a spare pair of underwear with you, where like it was like this, sexy lady in a sexy nurse outfit, holding it like spare pair, and like, with like a red cross on it, like, so it was more of a joke gift that you would give to your friends or something to be funny. But she was still thinking like in her original concept that might be a bigger market. So now she had this one target market that she had not even originally considered when she started, but had actually made a big sale and had the potential to continue making big sales there. But also was saying, how do I get into this more, you know? And so I said, well, you need to start thinking of like not someone who's buying stuff at Spencer's, but someone who's like a mom buying, like you started as a mom doing this for your daughter. Is the packaging too provocative? Is putting it in a little folding envelope like feminine hygiene products that just fits discreetly? Is that a better option? And so we went through a whole marketing process, right? Of saying, who's the new target market? We know you've got sexy Spencer gift target market. Second target market, I haven't seen the product out, so apparently it didn't go, right? But was something more conservative that seemed less sexy oriented and more, I don't know, more like, I think we kind of decided it was kind of like the feminine hygiene market. In other words, if you could get every woman on earth to think that they need to have a spare pair in there for them or their teenage kid the same way they feel like they need to, that would be a huge market. That's 50% of the population. right? That's massive. So that's just an example of sort of how target marketing works. When we started thinking of a different market, we had to change packaging, change concept, change the messaging around it. Instead of like, this is funny or this is sexy, it's more like this is a, it's like soap and like a toothbrush. It's like something you just pack when you go away for the weekend, just in case you need it. So that's what we're doing here. Okay. That's how we need to think as marketers, is who's buying this, and then how does that impact everything else? So the first thing we want to do is identify an appropriate targeting strategy. In other words, there's more than one strategy even for choosing a target market. Then determine which segmentation variables to use. In other words, how do we divide up a market? In her case, was gender a factor? Sure. For all products though? No, right? It depends. Like men and women both drink soda. So gender wouldn't be a factor probably in segmentation there. And so, is race a factor? Not in this case, but it is for some products, right? Is wealth a factor? Maybe. There's some products that only rich people get, some people things that, most middle class people could afford, and some things that, there's products that there's poor people just don't buy, right? Because they can't. Or even middle class people. When's the last time any of you bought caviar? I've never, exactly, and I don't want to. It's fish eggs. It sounds. I'll just go get some salmon eggs from the fishing store and eat those. Delicioso. All right. After we do that, we develop market segment profiles, which we'll talk about. Evaluate relevant market segments, and then select a specified target market. So it's like a 5-step process that we go through. So if you were sitting down, like I was, consulting with a business owner, we would try to go through these steps. If it was your own business, it's just helpful to have a process, steps, right? As opposed to just being like, I don't know, I think women would like this or whatever. All right. So first, we're going to talk about identifying the appropriate targeting strategy. Like we mentioned, what a market is. So a target market is a group of people that we wish to focus our marketing efforts on. Again, we're not limiting who can buy our product, right? The spare pair lady, a guy could buy that and give it to his girlfriend as a gift or whatever, right? Or he could buy it for himself if he wants ladies' underwear in a pill bottle. I don't know what he likes. I'm not judging. Okay, that was funny, and she didn't even smirk. She's not even listening to me. All right. I mean, it wasn't funny, but it was decent. Okay, not my best material, but it was solid. Anyway, so we're not saying you can't buy my product. We're saying, who are we focusing our energy on? Okay. We're going to make the packaging, we're going to make the feel of the product, the place where you buy it, all places where those people buy stuff, right? Where do women buy stuff? Well, I mean, they buy it all the same places guys do, plus a few other places that guys don't usually go to. I don't go to Victoria's Secret because I know there's guys in there, but they're all just perverts. I'm just staying away. Okay. It's a joke. Okay. Now that they don't, now it's not all sexy underwear, right? You can just get the pink t-shirt. It was just a t-shirt. That wasn't sexy underwear. I think pink is a weird brand because you'll have like a black shirt that says pink, and I'm like, I don't get it. That all right? Colors matter. Okay. Like I need to. If it's pink, it has to say pink. All right. Just like people who name their daughter April, but she's not born in April. It's weird to me. Okay. All right. So we're going to select our target market and the strategy we use by the characteristics of the target market, our products attributes, and our own objectives and resources. What do you think is EAC's target market? What? Well, if they were students, they wouldn't need to come here. Okay. Yeah, EAC. Yeah. Okay, so not all community members, although parents may have a role in making that decision, right? But if you walk along campus and you look at the little banner things that are along the middle sidewalk, is it like old people Or is it like young people that are happy and colorful, learning with beautiful green grass and a clock tower, right? So that's probably our primary target market. Students of college age, and just prior to it, right? We're going to come and visit your school and talk to. So that's the characteristic. Why? Well, not only because we want students like that to come here, but that's who typically comes here. But do you see older adults come back to school here at EAC? A lot, actually, right? That's what's great about community colleges. I call them the land of second chances for those people who are like, didn't want to do college when they're younger, and now they're like, I want to try something different. You can get in. Can you fog a mirror? Can you pay the tuition? You're in, right? It's not like Harvard or Harvard. All right. So this is kind of tiny. We've got 3 targeting strategies here. The first is called an undifferentiated strategy. That's this top one. And then a concentrated strategy, and then a differentiated strategy. So an undifferentiated strategy, in essence, means we're not going to try to carve the market up into small groups. We are going to use the same strategy and go at the whole target market. Okay, that's an undifferentiated strategy. So a single marketing mix. Remember, the marketing mix is our product, our price, our promotion, and our, used to be place, but now they call it distribution, our means of getting it out to people. They used to call it the 4 Ps. It was catchy. So that's undifferentiated. We're going to use the same marketing mix for the whole target market. A concentrated strategy is where we're not going to go for the whole target market. Instead, we're going to segment the target market and just try to get one segment of that market. We're going to use one marketing mix and just call a segment or a portion of the target market the group we're really working toward. And then the third one is called a differentiated strategy. And this is where we still segment the target market, and then we try to go for different segments, but we use different marketing mixes for each. Okay. As you can imagine, this is more expensive, but potentially more lucrative because we're hitting a larger group of people. But it's more expensive in the sense that you almost have to have like 2 marketing departments at the same time, right? Like working with these 2 different segments of the target. This one is cheaper and more focused on exactly who you think will want to buy your product. And this one is cheaper, but just kind of like, sort of like shotgunning it, just throwing it out there and seeing if we can get some of these people to come in. We're not going to bother to even segment it out. Okay. And really, it depends on your product. Some products, it works well. Who is the market for toilet paper? Anybody with a butt, right? Which is, well, pretty much anybody. Yeah. Well, I mean, there might be someone that's like had an accident and they just have one of those little colostomy bags or something, but they don't have to wipe. But everybody else has to, And so then we're like, okay, do we want to segment this market? How could we segment the toilet paper user market? The center one is called concentrated. It's where we segment the market and just choose one segment. And how can you segment it? Do you think you could segment it by? Yeah. So users who are specific about some project attribute or some product attribute, right? Do you think that there's people who will just like use any old toilet paper they can get, right? Or there's other people that are like, no, like this brand is like exactly soft, it cuddles me, or whatever, right? So that might be one way, right? The sensitivity of the customers to softness or to, I don't know, thickness. You ever get that cheap toilet paper that is like one, and you have to like do like 20 layers of it because you're like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not taking the risk, right? That seems too serious, all right? So that would be a way to segment it. Do you think you could segment the toilet paper market by gender, men and women? Like, could we make a toilet paper that appeals to women more than men? Like, we might recognize that, I don't know if it's true, but in households where there are both men and women, I bet you women more often make the purchase decision on toilet paper than the men. Like moms probably often make that choice, or wives. Not in every family, of course, but more often. You're married 2 weeks now. Right? Who makes the toilet paper decisions? Aha! And actually, I do most of the shopping in our family. But anyway, so I mean, I don't know. What there's different ways that you can segment a market. And then you have to ask yourself, for this market, does it make sense for us to do an undifferentiated strategy where we're selling toilet paper. So we're going to try to make it general. We're not going to use girly colors, whatever that may mean, right? Because we're not allowed to make guesses. We're not going to use girly scents, whatever that may mean. We're just going to have kind of an unscented, but moderately soft toilet paper. It's quilted, right? Or do we want to segment it and just choose some group? We're going to really try to focus our product on women because we think they're the purchasers of this product. Then how would we focus it? How would we change the packaging? It's in pretty cursive script or whatever. They should have like man paper. They actually have dude wipes. Have you ever seen those? I bought some for Tim as a gag when he was going to Brazil. I was like, here's some dude wipes. And like he's at the MTC down in Brazil and he's like, those things were a lifesaver. What does he say? Those things were a lifesaver, low key. Apparently in Brazil, you just need a little softness sometimes. I don't know. Or do we want to segment it and then we're going to attack, one segment one way. So now we're gonna have like man toilet paper and woman toilet paper, or maybe like we'll have a soft, nice toilet paper for people who care about that, and then we'll have like a cheaper, like no frills toilet paper, John Wayne toilet paper, right? You guys have heard of John Wayne toilet paper? It's rough and it's tough and it don't take no crap off of anyone, like that. All right. So here we have 6 product types, and we're supposed to identify whether each product would require an undifferentiated strategy, a concentrated strategy, or a differential strategy. All right. No, we don't care. It's theory. Theory is like, I'm going to start seeing all these ads for toilet paper, right? Because Siri's listening. All right. Baking soda, what do you think? Probably, right? Like, is there premium baking soda? I mean, not really. There's like Great Value baking soda and there's Arm & Hammer baking soda. Here's one way to tell. If there's like a brand name and like a Great Value and their prices are relatively close, it means they've seen almost no advantage in the brand name. Okay. Otherwise, Great Value, because they're good marketers, they'll drop the price relative to their brand name competitors so that there's another reason for you to buy it. But since it's so close, you're going to bake your cookies either way. You'll probably just grab the Great Value. What and the freak? That was me talking to me. All right. How about Mont Blanc? White Mountain, Mont Blanc pens. Anybody ever heard of Mont Blanc pens? Google it. I'm guessing. I don't know. That's why I had you Google it. I can't speak French like Mont Blanc. Ha ha oui oui. How much is the Mont Blanc pen? Oh, those are pretty nice. 200. Okay, so that is not an undifferentiated product, right? Like, so what would you say? Let's look back. I'm sorry it's so small, but we have like undifferentiated up there. That one is concentrated, and that one is differentiated. So do you think that they are just trying to pick out one segment of the market and sell to them? Or do you think that they're trying to make multiple ones and they're going to have like a cheap Mont Blanc pen for you and a nice one for a fancy rich guy? Probably the middle one, right? Like maybe a company like Parker. Have you ever heard of Parker pens? They're like nice pens, but like $7 for a good one. And then they have like the $100 executive pen set. That would be more of that differentiated strategy where they're like, you can have a nice pen for $7, but not as nice as rich guy lawyer, right? Or whatever. All right. iPhones. right? So they're all this, I mean, like I'm curious, do you see much marketing for iPhones toward people my age? Still got them. Maybe they're like, he could afford, you know who, I wonder if it's old people that make the decisions. It's like, are any of you still on your parents' plan? So no, yeah, you got married. They're like, nope, you're you're on your own, kid. So yeah, that's a hard one for me. I would think probably differentiated in the sense that I do think they try to hit more than one target and have some different messaging. Yeah, and I mean, really, what they're saying there is you just keep making payments to us for life, right? They're turning your purchase plan really into a lease that you trade up for, and so you're always making a payment. Which I mean, that's good because I probably if I had to drop $1,000 on this, it's like, but I'll pay $25 a month for the rest of my natural born life, apparently. Um, Pay it off a little bit early and feel good about myself, and then 6 months later, get a new one and start making payments again, right? All right, we don't have to go through all of them. Lululemon? How do you say it? Lululemon? Yeah. Gee, it doesn't seem like they're working on a specific target market. All the women are like, you don't know how to say that? And the guys are like, I think I've heard of that vaguely. Is that it's not just yoga gear, right? It's like comfortable clothing and is it all workout stuff? Oh, they do make men's clothes? I don't think I could feel manly wearing something called Lululemon. It sounds kind of
The girls usually buy it for the guys.
yeah, so it's like a gift. So okay. So clearly they've segmented the market, but probably not super differentiated. In other words, they're shooting for a certain segment of the market and using a single message and everything else probably, yeah. So that's probably concentrated. Tesla, I feel like Tesla started really concentrated and they are trying now to open this up, right? So they kind of had like, only rich, uh, young hip people had Teslas. And now they're trying to be like, no, this is like a viable option for regular people. They have these other models that are pretty affordable, actually. Like I was looking at like a Cybertruck. Those are weird. Have you ever seen a picture of the Cybertruck? Google that sometime. Tesla Cybertruck. It is. Yeah. But like they're like 50 grand. And I'm like, that's how much a pickup truck costs. Like, like between 38 and depending on all the bells and whistles you want to get on it, some are like 80. I just think they're weird looking, aren't they? I don't either. My son was trying to talk me into getting one, so I learned about it and then was like, that's a hard pass. Um, and then finally, so Tesla is, I would say, a company that is transitioning from a they're transitioning from a like a concentrated to a what is it called? I just forgot. Differentiated, right? They're trying now to hit different markets. They still almost all cars are differentiated if you think about it. Toyota has a Lexus brand for richy people and the Toyota brand for regular people or whatever. And some of them even have like a low end brand. And each model even has like the higher end version of the model and the lower end version of the model. And the last one was black pepper. I was gonna say undifferentiated, but like where it's just like right, like they just like go for it. But I think it might be differentiated. And the reason I say that is like I think the market has changed for pepper. A lot more people want to get like peppercorns and grinders now, right? And because you like it chunky, or I like the peppercorn medley that has some different flavors in it. And so that's a form of differentiation, right? Based on taste. Whereas I think 40 years ago, we would have said it was a undifferentiated market. It's like you get pepper. Yes, but what pepper do you have, sir? I have pepper, the black kind. You're gonna like it like that. So anyway, so there's a way of thinking about it. All right, so that was only step one. Woo! Fox is talking too much today. Sorry, guys. I think it's what makes it interesting. All right. So determine which segmentation variables to use. So here's the real rules we're going to try to use. So segmentation variables are the characteristics of the market, okay, the individuals or the groups or the organizations that we're going to use to divide them up so that we can focus our energy. Okay. I know it sounds kind of like discrimination, doesn't it? We're going to divide people, not unite them. But remember, we're not dividing people. We're saying, is there a group of people who would really like this product more than others, and that we can make a message that will appeal to? Okay. So here's the segmentation variables and the rules relating to them. They should relate to the customer's needs for the use of and their behavior toward the product. Would you say water bottles might have different uses? Some people want one that they can drink while they're jogging, or maybe just one that's and like even the style of them. Some people are trying to sort of, I don't know, show their group affiliation with the kind of water bottle. And then you have like the bro with like the big gallon one with like lines drawn on it. Oh, I'm on my third line today, right? And that one, that's nice. It's convenient. You can just flip it open and take a drink. You don't have to like screw the lid off. So things like that. They must be measurable. So I don't know how you measure things like style, but I think it's definitely a segmentation variable. We have to have resources and capabilities that will affect the number of segments that we can actually use. In other words, we don't have indefinite marketing power and money. And so for us to be like, there's this many segments in the market that we've identified, let's just go for all of them. The only way to do that in an affordable way is just to do an undifferentiated strategy. Just make our product one way and hope that all those segments go for it. Because if we do try to differentiate or concentrate, I guess I'd say, then we only can go for like one segment usually. And if we differentiate, that really increases our cost, because now we're trying to reach out to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different markets. And so to create 5 versions of your product with different packaging, different coloring, just becomes expensive. Okay. All right. So here's some examples of segmentation variables. These are called demographic variables, things like age, gender, race, ethnicity, income level, education, etc. You can read them, but there they are in the blue. Those are demographic variables. I have eight children. Does that put me in a group that would, for certain products, that a family with 1 child or 2 children? Sure, right? That's a way to divide us up. Psychographic variables. That's a cool sounding name. It just means personality attributes, right? Some people like bright colors because they're out, they want to be seen, and other people that would feel uncomfortable to them, or whatever, right? Motives, lifestyles, geographic variables, right, where we live, and then behavioristic variables. There's a difference between some people who use the product once in a while and people who use the product every day, right? And probably we want to target people who use it more. I was talking about pharmacies. They don't really exist for healthy young people. They're there and you can buy a product there. So if you go to the doctor and he says, oh, you have strep, here's a prescription for antibiotics, and you go over there and you buy your antibiotics, like they'll take your business, but they're not focused on you, right? They're focused on diabetics who have to constantly buy insulin, and constantly they're focused on people with heart disease who constantly need medication and treatment. That's where they make their money. And that's not because they don't value you as a customer, but again, they can't be everything to everybody. So they have to segment down and then say, who's going to be a constant purchaser at high volume from us? That's how they segment it. All right, this is just an interesting slide I saw. Spending levels by age groups for selected product categories. So, entertainment. Who spends the most on entertainment? That's the pink one here. Looks like Gen X. That's me, by the way. I'm not a boomer. I was born in 1974. So my age group spends the most on entertainment. Why do you think that is? Is it because we just like entertainment more than you do? Is it because what? That's true. You're not on there, but I promise you I spend more than. Is it because we're at a stage of life where, like, well, who has the most spending? Gen X. Because we're at the stage of life where our kids are leaving. We kind of maxed out at our job, right? When you're young and you're making nothing, trying to go to school, you can only spend so much on entertainment. As you get older, Then you have kids and other expenses. Now my kids move out and my income is peaked. You know, you're making 140 grand a year and you got no kids at home. You can go on a cruise. You never did that when you had little kids or whatever. Okay. And so that impacts. So right now, these two segments are the gold mine for marketers. This one's coming into it. They have less money. So interesting to me. Food at home, food away, apparel. You guys think your generation spends a lot on clothing? Say as a percentage of your income, clothing? What's that? Eating out or food at home? I think that's true. College kids always be like, I am so broke. And I'm like, how many times did you eat out this week? And they'll be like, yeah, only like 3. I'm like, dude, I can't afford to go out to eat 3 times a week. But then it's because I have to take all the kids and stuff too. That gets pricey. All right. And then we have something called family life cycle. This is another thing, another way we divide people up, right? Which is like so this is the percentage of all households. So single earner couples with children, that's my wife and I. She's never worked a real job other than taking care of kids. She's worked, but never a for pay job. She's an artist and she occasionally takes commissions and paints, but it's not a regular business for her. And there's probably in this community a higher percentage of those than in the country as a whole. This is just a more traditional, old-fashioned community in some ways. But dual earner married couples with children, that's the biggest segment of our society. Does that surprise you? Probably not, right? So husband and wife with kids that both work, or a husband and husband with kids that both work, or a wife and a wife with, I mean, that definition would include all of those groups, okay? The next biggest is childless singles age 45 or older. That's interesting. Or is that no, that's interesting. But I guess that means every adult whose children have moved out that is not married. So either divorced or a widow or widower. So I guess that's a pretty big segment. You know, my father-in-law, I mean, his wife died 10 years before him. So he was in that segment for a long time. And then the third biggest group up here, 13, childless married couples age 45 to 64. And again, I think childless, they're not meaning they never had children, meaning they don't have that. And we're getting close to that, right? Our baby's 17. Get him out the door. Anybody know our baby boy, Nephi? You know him? He's my baby. All right, step 3 is we develop market segment profiles. So all that is looking sort of at all of these factors we talked about where they all overlap each other and then saying, this is the one that fits us, okay? So we describe the similarities among the segments, explain the differences, assess the degree to which our product fulfills. Does that make sense? So that's the third step. The fourth step is to evaluate the relevant market segments. So after we've narrowed it down to the ones we might want to focus on, we start to evaluate them on factors usually that are like sales estimates. How much do we think this market will actually buy? And competition. How much of what this market buys will we actually be able to supply as opposed to our competitors? And what are the costs going to be? Because some markets are more expensive to go into, especially like if you're talking about like a geographic region or something like that. It's just not as cheap. So sales estimates, they come about again. So really all sales estimates means is the total amount we think a certain market is going to purchase of a given product. And again, the world of analytics where people use computers to do this work is a growing field. If you're like, that's interesting to me, that's a growing field. And then below that is our sales potential. And again, we have to, so the influencing factors are like the market potential, the magnitude of industry-wide marketing activities, and I think our place within that, right? So, you know, so the cell phone market potential is pretty huge. Almost everybody has a cell phone. Even poor people have cell phones, right? And so then Apple would be looking at this saying, well, how much of that market can we have? And the ways they would do that is either to say, well, we think our product is better than the other products and therefore this, or in this case now they have years and years of data to say, we have steadily been growing our market share. I don't know. I'm curious. I'd have to see the data. I would guess Apple is 45% of all cell phones out there, something like that. But I'd have to see. I'm sure that data exists. And so there's these two approaches, like I just kind of mentioned. There's the to sort of estimating what your sales potential will be, or the breakdown approach, which is like to look at all these factors and break it down to say how much of this is us, or the build up approach, which is to look at our past sales and say, what percentage of the market do we think we can have? So there's two ways to approach it. Usually when you're doing analytics, you do both and see if you come out to a pretty close answer. Start with the broader market and say, here's all the segments, here's where we think we fit, and start down at the lower level saying, here's what we have been selling, and we're making these changes, which we think is help us gain some. And if you can I always like to come at products from at least two directions and see if I get a similar answer or one that's plus or minus a couple standard deviations of each other. And if they do, I feel confident in my estimate. Competitive assessment is just the same idea where we're asking these questions. How many competitors exist? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Can our company create a marketing mix to compete with theirs? So again, think about if you're making a plan, you need to know who your competitors are, what they're doing right, what they're not doing great. It's kind of like that SWOT analysis. Well, these are dealing with the external threats and opportunities created by your competitors. Some people get overconfident. They see a weakness in a competitor and they're like, aha, we'll fill that market niche. But it's got to be enough that for you to actually create a viable market in it. Okay. All right. And then cost estimates. Like I said, different groups and different target markets require different costs. You know, some packaging can be really minimalistic, which can make it cheap. How many of you have an iPhone? Yeah. So the iPhone comes in that box, right? That they could definitely do cheaper packaging than they do. But I think they're trying to keep like a mystique about it, like it's the iPhone. It's magical, right? And you kind of like slide the top off and you're like, I'm going to save that box because it's, so people save their iPhone box because it seems like a nice box. All right. So those are all the different factors in cost. There you go. All right. Last thing, we select a specific target market. So after we've gone through this whole process, we're finally going to choose. This is the segment of the market that we're going to go after. This is our target market. More and more, we're using data, big data for this, right? Instead of just making our estimates, now we're also reaching out to, again, how I mentioned, like the grocery store keeps track of what you buy, and they can provide us a ton of data and say how similar products have sold. And then we could even look at the competing similar products and be like the packaging and what attributes of this product seem to matter. And so we can kind of coalesce all that data together because computers can handle massive amounts of data in ways that people can't. So that's, again, a growing field. And then we develop sales forecasts, and we won't go deep into it, but the idea is when we know who we're selling to and we know how our product meets their needs and we know our competitor's situation, we can start to accurately get a sense of how much money we can actually earn and put that up against our costs, and then we can develop a strategic budget for the whole program. All right. So that's the information covered in Chapter 5. I know we're moving at a quick pace, but that's the nature of an 8-week class. And so please keep on top of the homework. You know, don't wait till the due date and then try to do it all. Because remember, I've lumping chapters together. So, you know, the best time to go in sometimes is like right after I've talked about it. And just go in there and be like, okay, I got half those questions just from the lecture. I only have to look up the other half in the book instead of all of it. Anyway, so that's all I got for you today.